Hello everyone, Beard Reads Books here, and for this book review I'm going to be reviewing The Great Post Office Scandal by Nick Wallis. This is an relatively recent incident, and it's still to a certain extent rumbling along. Basically, for those of you that know absolutely nothing about the post office scandal, what basically happened was back in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, the post office, they started reading out like computer system to all the various post offices. It was sort of like bringing the post office more into the digital age, and the software they were using, called Horizon, it was a piece of software that was absolutely riddled with like computer bugs, faulty, not fit for purpose, rushed through, and that. And what was basically happening was it was creating a lot of accountancy problems for like all the sort of post office masters and like sub postmasters and all the rest. What was happening was the computer was this like Horizon software, the program. It was saying that there was like accountancy discrepancies, and when in reality there wasn't any discrepancies. The reason why the Horizon software was saying there was discrepancies was because there was problems with the Horizon, with the software. It was so riddled with bugs, it was incorrectly saying there's accountancy problems. And for a long time, the post office, their attitude was, oh no, Horizon, it's robust, there's nothing wrong with Horizon, it's doing its job properly. It says there's accountancy problems, that means the post office masters, all these postmasters, or either they or their staff, they're stealing from us. And so what the post office was doing, it was like false, it was like charging all these post office people, staff, with fraud, and it was taking them to court and hounding them and saying, you owe us this money, pay up, and if you don't pay up, we're gonna charge you, we're gonna like take you to court and that. I mean, like I said, these post office masters, they didn't owe any money to the post office. It was the computers a problem, but the post office, so their attitude was, no, the computer's correct, we're going to hound you through the courts if you don't pay up, because you owe us, and so there was a lot of people. They ended up being falsely accused of like fraud, stealing, all that kind of stuff, and they ended up being taken to court and and all sorts, and some ended up in prison, some ended up doing community service and all the rest of that. And it's only relatively recent, only within the last few years, that it came to light that it was a computer that was a problem, and like I said, the post office, it was an absolute scandal. And like I said, the post office had been forced to admit they were in the wrong, and all these people who are been falsely accused of stuff, they've been found to be innocent, and they're slowly starting to get compensation. That's a bit of an ongoing thing still at the moment. Now, I bought this book while I was on holiday in Liverpool, because when this scandal was initially really starting to kick off, I was sort of vaguely aware of it, but didn't really follow it much at the time. So when I saw this book, I thought, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to read all about it and learn sort of more about what happened and that. And I'd say, it's a big book, but I'd say it's easy to, on the one hand, it is very, very easy to read. And on the other hand, it's very, very hard to read. the reason why it's easy to read is because, I mean, the chapters are relatively short chapters. You know, each chapter's only like a few pages long, so yeah. And also it just draws you in, it just grabs your attention, and you know, it's not a dry book, you know, it's very, you know, it's not heavy going at all. You know, it's a very easy to get through. And and I was finding, you know, I was like, because the chapters are short and it's very gripping and very like really drawed me in. I was like, get through a chapter pretty quickly. Like, oh, I'll read another chapter. Oh, I'll read another chapter. I'll read another chapter. You know, so in that sense, it was very easy to read. But like I said, at the same time, very hard to read, because a lot of these like sub postmasters, I mean, what happened to them? Just reading about how the post office hounded them and the way they got treated by the post office, and the things that happened to these people. It's so heart-wrenchingly sad to see that, you know, these are real people whose lives have been devastated by a cold-hearted, uncaring, unsympathetic post office. And there's a lot of words I could quite easily use to describe my feelings towards what the post office did to these people, but I'm not going to use those words because I'll probably end up on a YouTube ban or something like that, you know. So yeah, colourful language. There's a lot of colourful language I could use to describe my feelings towards what the post office did, but you know, it's hard going to sort of to read the accounts of people whose lives have been absolutely devastated by these false accusations and mistreatment that the post office did towards them. You know, so yeah. But I mean, it's like, you got to read this book. It is a very good book. I would highly recommend everyone should like either buy it or borrow it. I'd recommend buying it. I mean, I paid excuse me. I mean, I paid £25 for this in the bookshop, and 10% of the sort of sale price, 10% of the proceeds goes towards compensation for the sub postmasters and all the rest. Because obviously, like I said, the compensation process, I think that's still ongoing, and yeah, sort of how do you fully compensate somebody whose life has been damaged? I mean, you know, when it's not just monetary loss they've had, but you know, all the other stuff, you know, when their health has been affected, their mental health, their physical health, you know, how on earth do you fully properly compensate someone who's gone through such an horrific ordeal as what these postmasters did at the expense of the post office? But yeah, sorry, yeah, I'm slight tangent there. But I said, you know, a lot of these post office staff, they still are like, to get full financial compensation. That's still something that's rumbling on a bit, from what I understand. So what's happening is, with this book, 10% of the proceeds from the sale of this book is going towards, as I understand it, I hope I've understood it correctly, it's going towards a pot which will be used to sort of like put towards compensation for the staff that have been mistreated. So it's a way of helping ensure they get full financial compensation. I mean, that's my understanding of what's happening, of how I've read it. So if I've misunderstood that, then I'm happy to be corrected. But I mean, yeah, like I said, but yeah, definitely, you guys, you got to read this book. It's a good way of sort of learning more about what's going on you know, with the post office scandal, and you know, this is a very good way of educating yourselves about current affairs, because like I said, it's only sort of the last couple of years or so that sort of the post office staff that have got caught up in this, where they've sort of had their sentences quashed, their sort of convictions overturned, you know, and it's only the last year or two they've started sort of getting compensation and all the rest. So this is still very much current affairs, you know, in very, very, very recent history. So yeah, I've got to say this has got to be one of the best books I've ever read. One of the best factual books I've ever read. So guys, buy it. Go out and buy it. Yeah, as soon as you can. I highly recommend. I really do strongly recommend you buy it, guys. So yeah. Anyway, that's my little review on the post office scandal. And yeah, I mean, Nick Wallis, because the way he's written it, he's done a superb job of writing it, because he's been quite involved in the whole process, you know, had a lot of contact with a lot of the people that got caught up in this scandal. And when it was going through the courts, he was going to sort of the courts quite a lot, like following it in the court cases and the court hearings and all the rest. So, you know, he's had a heck of a lot of involvement in the whole situation, in the whole proceeding. So yeah, he knows a lot, an awful lot of the ins and outs of the scandal. So he really knows what he's talking about. You know, he was there in the thick of it, you know, sort of following the story and heavily, actively involved in it and all the rest. So, you know, this isn't a guy, Nick Wallis, he's not a guy writing it from a sort of a second or third hand point of view. He's writing it as a person who was in the thick of it, you know, so which I think that has helped make it the good book that it is. The fact that he was in the thick of it rather than writing it from a second, third, fourth hand point of view kind of thing. So yeah, so anyway, yeah, like I said, gotta buy it, guys. You gotta go out and get it. It is definitely a good read, worth it. And on that happy note, I am going to bring this video to an end now. And guys, thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the next vid. And in the meantime, take care.